Poll with A and Chat, and today I have Sam Butler here today. Today we're going to be talking about basically the history of trap shooting and what trap shooting is. Sam, when you say I do trap, and someone says, "Well, what is trap?" What do you usually say to them? What is trap?
Actually, this is a very good question because recently I actually did have to explain the concept of trap to somebody. It was actually during freshman retreat. And I explained basically just the rules of how the sport is played, what we do in terms of how we shoot, different positions from where we shoot, and like how we score things and stuff like that. I don't really delve into the history behind trap too much because
it goes back to like about 1870.
When
it starts.
That and also the history of trap doesn't really tie into the whole how the game is played. It's important.
That's true.
But
yes.
it's better to just explain the game as how it's played now.
Right. So basically, I did a lot of research on how trap came to be, and it started out in Europe and France, to be honest. And actually, it started off, obviously, a lot of trap shooters know that they started off with actual clay, like not clay pigeons, sorry, actual pigeons. Actual pigeons. So why do you think they used pigeons instead of like a duck per se? Why do you think they used a pigeon?
Well, I don't know. Pigeons are expendable, so there's a ton of them. You know, like city pigeons in like New York and such. There's a ton of them. But I think also they fly easy, so like they'll like shoot up real fast. And I think that the term clay pigeon just comes from pigeon because like the whole thing behind it is like the use of pigeons was too expensive because you had to like take care of them and then you shoot them and all that kind of stuff. So I mean like I think it's good reasoning to.
Also another big thing that I found out that after they got rid of the actual pigeons, they used glass balls with feathers inside.
Really?
Yeah, it's very crazy this concept that they would just throw these glass balls out into the field with feathers, trying to
shoot them.
Shoot them. Yeah, and then trying to interpret being a pigeon, basically trying to think it's pigeon, but then it didn't last long because due to the glass just laying on the ground, not really doing anything. It's very expensive to create.
I would say.
Because these like glass balls that I looked up on how they looked like it took very intricate work on it. Yeah. So obviously it's going to be very expensive, especially at that time and age in like the late 1800s.
Yeah.
Because having it come over to America, it's just very difficult for that.
For that purpose.
That purpose, yeah. So basically, when that method was discontinued, a man named Legowski developed the first clay pigeon. Yeah. So, and that's the one that we obviously use today for ski, trap, and just all that stuff. So the first competition started in Ohio. All trap shooting, when it first came to America, started in Ohio in 1873. Yeah. The American and Trap Shooting Handicap Championship in Ohio was the largest individual participation next to the Boston Marathon.
Do you know like how many?
About 5,000 people. Ooh. 5,000 shooters. And today's trap shooting, when we go to state, there's maybe 250. Yeah.
Actual shooters?
Actual shooters. There's only 2,500 shooters. But then...
Sorry, 250 or 2,500?
2,500 shooters. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. It's pretty big, but like not compared to this amount of people. Each 5,000 shooters.
Well, yeah, it's a very popular Midwestern sport, so it's like... It really became like popularized through like high school sports.
Correct. Yes. And
so, yeah, I could see that. And then, you have more.
I do have more. I have a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah.
So basically, this is equipment and how it all started. So basically, when it all started, they were using flintlock and some nice, muzzle loaders.
Oh yeah, that's reliable.
Yeah, it's very muzzle loaders, because we all know, if you know your types of guns, muzzle loaders are not the most reliable, especially with a flintlock. Flintlocks are obviously not one of the best ones to use for trap shooting. That's why all these other shotguns were produced.
Yeah.
Like the
Winchesters.
The
Remingtons. All those.
Yeah. And then basically around, I can't remember what year, it was.
Do you remember, do you know the original shotgun they used for, training?
The big one that they use a lot that I found out was the Winchester Model 97 pump.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, the M1897.
Yep. So that was the big one, and then the Ithaca Sosa, the single barrel, was actually named after John Philip Sosa, who kind of had a big impact on that type of gun.
Yep.
Obviously, side-by-sides were a very big part of trap shooting at that time.
Oh, yeah, coach guns.
Yep. Side-by-sides, over-unders. Definitely the main guns used from the 30s to the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the 50s and 60s, 95% of trap shooters were shooting Winchester Model 12 pumps. These dominated the sport for about 10 to 15 years. So the type of gun you have, tell me about it. I want to know what type of gun that you use, either a pump, break action, because there's obviously many types of different guns.
Mm-hmm. So I originally used for my first 3 years of trap. So I've been doing trap shooting for all 4 years of my time at prep,
right,
from freshman to senior. I've been using, for my first 3 years, I used a Winchester SX4, I believe, pump action.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very good gun. I still have it, and I still use it for whatever. I used that for my first 3 years, and then this year I was lent a new gun. I don't think it's ever been fired before. If it has, it's been very limited,
and obviously it's a very beautiful gun.
It's a
especially from what I've seen.
Oh yeah. I'm now shooting a Benelli 828U, which is an over-under, one of the first produced by Benelli, actually. It's a newest over-under line, and it's a really good shooter. Thing shoots like a dream, I swear. And I've been very excited and very grateful to be able to use that, because it's a very high-quality gun.
Mm-hmm. So going back to the different types of guns used in the 60s and 50s and 60s, that's when the Remington 870 pump was produced, and the Browning BT99 single, which is the one I use. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the other trap guys on the team use the BT99, which is a very common gun throughout history from the 60s up until now, which is very popular. And then obviously the Browning Broadway, the over-under, basically the BT99, but just as an over-under.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know why they call it the Broadway? I never found out why they call it the Broadway.
I've never heard of that gun, to be honest.
Really?
No. I just heard of... Well, Browning has many over-under...
Correct.
Types and stuff like that,
mm-hmm.
and they also have the single-shot BTs and stuff like that. But no, I haven't really heard much about that.
It's something I came across, and I was like, never heard of that, so...
Yeah.
But another gun that came into play in about 1971 came from Italy, actually.
Oh yeah.
The Perazzi TMI, the TM1 single shot. I found out that around 1972, this gun had a very long barrel and a higher stock.
Mm-hmm.
So it heightened the scores of these shooters that were coming in and obviously dominating this sport with this newer gun, because
mm-hmm.
the longer barrel, obviously you want the longer barrel for trap shooting to get that
reach out there.
That reach out, yes. And then obviously having the longer barrel and a higher stock keeps your eye position into play. But obviously each shooter is different. So tell me about how you shoot and like.
Oh gosh. Well, how I shoot.
Like.
Well, I haven't changed my method from my pump to the over-under that I'm using.
That's right.
I always hold. My hold point is always on the trap house itself, so I like rotate as I go around the 5 positions.
Right.
And if as I scoot back, I go up. So like I'll have the same hold point, but I'll just be higher.
Okay.
Because then I can so. That's the way I've been shooting since probably freshman or sophomore year. I think that's the way that Coach Vasco,
that's
good old coach. That's the way he taught me, and I think I've just held on to that ever since. Footing is also very important. The way you stand
very important.
for swinging the gun when you get those hard rights or hard lefts. That's something I've just had to learn on my own.
Correct.
Because everybody else is a right-handed shooter. I'm a left-handed shooter. So that's like you kind of flip it from the way you think.
Yes.
So correct. Yeah, that's always been a challenge. But I mean, I think I've locked that down in recent years.
Oh, yeah. I've had 3 different guns over my 4 years at prep. My freshman year, I shot a semi-automatic.
Really?
Yeah, I did. Yes, it was actually Coach Vasco's. He let me use it.
Oh
for
yeah,
the
that's
season.
right.
I loved it, but then I found out it was about a 2,500 gun.
Expensive gun.
Very, very, very expensive gun. But then my sophomore year, Coach Vasco, sadly that was his last year.
Oh yeah.
He actually gave me his BT99, and I still have that till today. And then,
yeah.
But then I also
no chokes though.
No, I'm actually in the market to get chokes.
Goodness gracious, this man, you've been shooting with no chokes this entire time.
Yep.
I mean, like, I think that shooting with chokes is very important, and I think that like that will elevate your game.
That's exactly what our next topic is going to be.
Okay.
The chokes. The chokes is probably one of the biggest player in trap shooting. Having a full modified. Improved.
There's like 5.
There's 5 different ones, but the biggest one that most guys use and girls that use the choke for 16s is a modified. Would you agree with that?
So yeah, basically for those who don't know, a choke constricts the size of your shot spread.
Correct.
So everyone knows that a shotgun shoots little pellets instead of like a bullet. You know.
Yeah.
So your spread is determined by the size of the choke you have in your gun. So when, say, you have a full choke, that's the largest choke you can have in your gun. It constricts the most.
Correct.
So I shoot a full choke for my handicaps because we're farther back.
Yeah.
Say like I shoot like a 23 yard handicap. I'd shoot a full choke all the way.
Yeah.
Anything past like around 20, I'll shoot a full choke.
Yeah.
But like anything like for that, I mean, it's basically the same as a 16.
Yeah.
So I just shoot a modified for my 16s, and like a modified on the chokeness scale.
Yeah.
On that kind of scale is like the 3rd.
Yes.
So I mean, out of 5, I there's like some I haven't even heard of that like came with the gun I have
very
now.
Very different ones.
And
yes.
I know there's full modified, improved modified. That's the only 3 I know.
Yeah.
Because those are like the 3 tightest chokes, and there's like all different ones for like hunting and stuff like that.
Cylinder, like a complete just one cylinder, and that's I believe that's the one I use.
Really?
I took my choke out.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, you can shoot your gun without a choke, but
right?
I mean, it helps.
Yes, and I do have some kind of choke in there. I just don't know which one it is. My coaches don't even know what it is, so that's like and I've actually done more research on other guys who I have friends who shoot on Roncalli and friends who shoot on Scott. Basically, not Scott anymore. He graduated, but right now on Roncalli's trap team, I talked to 3 guys. Basically, they said the exact same as you. Modified for 16s, full for a farther back as they
Yeah.
go.
I think that's kind of like a universal thing.
Yeah.
Because that's what coaches tell me is like you should always switch out your chokes if you're going past 20 yards or so.
Obviously,
so
I wasn't listening to that because I don't have a choke.
You were chewing the same dang choke for however many years.
About 4 years.
But I've started doing that probably junior year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wait, we didn't have a season sophomore year?
So about end of sophomore year because that's when COVID hit.
Yeah, that was COVID.
We didn't have.
So we didn't have that.
We didn't even have a season.
Unfortunate, but
very unfortunate.
I've been doing that since probably around junior year,
Yeah.
and I think I've bumped my numbers up a little bit from that. So.
Oh, definitely. And then another thing that people are very confused on is ammunition.
Oh, yeah.
The shotgun shells. They're
gosh.
very, very confusing. Probably the biggest thing that they're used for, obviously, shotguns. They're used for shotguns. The way that they're based off of is the gauge, like 12 gauge, 12 gauge, 20 gauge.
Mm-hmm.
And just the higher number you get, the smaller barrel you're going to get, correct?
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, the way it used to be for, like, the old coach guns on stagecoaches and stuff with the side-by-sides used to be, like, 10 or 8 gauge.
Yeah,
and those are bigger than the ones we shoot.
Very big.
It's kind of cool. But,
yes,
it's like the frontier. But, yeah, the typical shot that people shoot for trap now is 12 or 20.
Yeah.
A couple guys on the team shoot 20,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
I think 1 or 2 guys, I believe.
And, of course, everybody knows the supply chain issues with COVID and the repercussions from COVID and the whole
less ammo.
Expensive ammo situation that we got going on. That's been a huge thing that the coaches have had to cover for us in terms of getting ammunition to every shooter for the year.
Yeah, because I know that some of the guys on the trap team can't afford as much as some other people that can buy 10 to 30 boxes at a time when some people can only buy, I don't know, maybe one flat for the entire season.
Yeah,
they have
so
to divvy it out.
And of course, like being on varsity, that whole attendance and shooting requirement is tough for people who want to go beyond and who want to really improve with the whole
that's very correct.
With the whole ammo impediment. So coaches have we've done shell sales in the past. We've subsidized the price of shells, lowered it for people.
Obviously it helps out a lot because normal ammo costs a lot.
I'm very grateful that I am able to afford my shells and that I have all my shells for the year.
Yes.
So I'm set, but I can't say the same as for everybody else, and that's
especially for the newer shooters that have no idea what they're doing.
Yep, the freshmen, the sophomores who are just getting into the sport, and maybe have just figured it out.
And some of the juniors, because when they started as freshmen, it was COVID. So they didn't even they didn't even get their freshman season. So
they haven't had anything.
They're still trying to get into the rhythm of everything. But
that's the whole struggle that we have to face as a trap team, in that we have to carry each other along and we have to help each other out. And I think that's something that the coaches have done that's great.
Yes, obviously.
And then
going back to ammunition, a lot of people, when people ask me, "Oh, what do you shoot?" "Oh, I shoot 1145,
8-shot, whatever.
8-shot," and they're like, "What does that mean?"
Yeah.
Obviously, the 1145 is how fast that those BBs will fire out at that time. And having a higher velocity means that they're going to go out faster. And having a lower one, obviously, they're going to be... And then, so the difference between the 1145 and 1200, big difference, obviously, because most people use 1145 for 16s and handicaps. But recently, I've started to use 1145 for 16s and 1200s for my handicaps, and I've noticed a huge difference on how fast the BBs will fire out at a time. So
I use 1200 because of the shell sale. They're all one single type of shell.
Correct. Yeah.
They're all 1200 8-shot, 2 3/4.
Yeah.
And of course, there's all the other specifications that will make a shotgun shell, a shotgun
gunpowder is in there.
Yeah, how much is in there and all that stuff. But since I got the majority of my shells from shell sales, and I have pretty much all the same type of ammunition.
Yeah.
Aside from select steel shot that I don't use for trap.
Right.
I have 1,200 shot for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I've mainly learned how to shoot 1,200 throughout my years at prep, and I think that 1,200 is just a fine FPS all around.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I just shoot that, but, I mean, I don't really have any complaints with the type of ammo I have.
Yeah,
so.
neither do I. I'm just happy for what I have.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
So since we've talked about the history, we've talked about equipment, now we're going to go into what trap actually is. Mm-hmm. Because obviously we've led up to this point where you know the history, you know where it came from.
Yeah.
But like you said at the beginning, the history is not what's as is important as it is to some people.
I'd say it's important, but it's also important to know like what you're doing.
Correct. You got to know the type of ammo you need, what the choke that you need, and then basically there's 5 shooters. Correct.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And a squad.
There's a squad, and then so you go up to the line. Obviously, we do a little prayer before we go up to the line because
Big Marcus.
The squad leader will always say a prayer, or someone who feels more comfortable on saying a prayer. So basically, we go up to the line.
Mm-hmm.
Squad leader says, "Squad ready, score ready."
Yep.
And then
pretty much
it just goes from there. Each shooter goes 5 times.
And then you switch.
And
then you do
switch.
5. You do every position, shoot 25 in a round.
Mm-hmm. And after you've done that, you go to a second box during actual meets.
Oh, yeah.
Then during state, you got 75.
Do you remember when what used to be 75 for all meets?
Yes,
Gosh.
I do remember that. That was a pain because we were in our own conference. Vasco made his own conference our freshman and sophomore year. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. And then once Coach Respelay took over, we went into an actual...
We went to ECTC, and
ECT.
they do 50-50.
Yeah, which I am...
Honestly, I prefer
ECT.
Because
75 is a lot to handle.
It's a lot of shooting.
Yeah.
Because especially since that was our freshman and sophomore year, that took a toll on the shoulder.
Yes,
you know,
because I remember I would
just
come
shooting
home
and
I
shooting.
just had this huge bruise on my shoulder.
And on my cheek, too, because
yes.
it goes up and back.
Mm-hmm, it does.
So, I still have mine from yesterday.
Gosh. And then, obviously, from that point, after you're done shooting your 50, it gets put into a computer, and then that's how far you move back for your handicaps.
Yep. So it like averages out. So like if you did kind of crap on your 16s, then you don't go as far back. So you go like 18 or like 20 or something like that.
But if you're doing pretty well, you're going to go pretty far back, which goes up to like 27.
What's the farthest back you've shot like in a meet?
I've shot at a 23 yard.
23.
And then
when was that?
That was last year, actually.
Oh, really?
That's when I shot I was on a senior squad with a bunch of seniors, and I was the only junior in the squad.
Okay.
Basically,
I don't remember much of junior year.
Yeah, junior year was interesting.
Yeah, because junior year was more of it was a lot of a blur because of like COVID and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, basically.
I think don't quote me on this, but I think the farthest back I've gone is 22. Mm-hmm. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't say for sure.
Yeah, obviously we had trap practice Sunday, and having those guys who've not shot 4 years like you and I, it's kind of difficult for them to shoot at 22s. Like, I hate to say it, but like Marcus.
Oh God, Marcus.
Marcus, even though that he has improved a lot from last year, especially from last year. I've definitely seen a lot of improvement from him. He's just not used to moving as far back as we are.
No, dude is God, freaking sniper out there.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, yeah, the whole thing of trap, it's much more of a mental game. Like you see all these physical games like football or like stamina wise like soccer. Mm-hmm. It's a lot of mentality when shooting trap because what's going on? Okay. Yeah. Because with trap, if you don't do well on a squat or on a post, you get mad at yourself.
Yes.
And then if you get mad at yourself, you put yourself down. You think. And if you think, you stink. As Coach Respelay always says.
Coach Respelay.
So, yeah, it's actually good, because if people are like hot-headed or like don't control themselves like I was like freshman, sophomore year, then you suffer because of it.
It definitely takes a toll on you, especially if you're obviously thinking about it. Definitely thinking about the score is going to put you down a lot, because if you're counting and you miss one, it's all over, because you start thinking about that one shot that you could have made, and then you just think about it the entire time and continue to miss, and you just throw it out the back. Yeah, it just hurts your score, and that'll come back and bite you in the butt.
Yeah, because oh gosh, yeah, that's something that you like just have to learn, because like you have to learn how to think. Like, of course we say don't think, because like then you ponder on it, you remember that, and that's what gets in your brain instead of how well you did. But I think that instead of not thinking, you should think about in a different way. So focus on the next shot instead of your past shot.
Yeah. Definitely moving forward instead of backwards.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I mean, yeah. So.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have to talk to you about. That is the history and what trap is.
Basics of trap.
The basics of trap, obviously. In later episodes, I might talk about it later, how deep you go, but obviously
there's a lot of small details in
little
trap.
Small details in trap that I will maybe talk about.
This is basically just the basics of stuff.
Oh yeah,
of the stuff. So.
And then talking to other shooters about how they shoot, what goes through their head, but yeah, that is basically the conclusion of today's podcast. Next episode will be with another shooter, but I will leave that up to who wants to be able to be available that time. So thank you for tuning in. This has been Aiden for Pull.